What is up, guys? Welcome to another tech talk here. I am so sorry if you were on any other previous attempts of a stream. I have no idea what's going on, but that's neither here nor there. Whether you're watching this live on the replay, I'm sure you're here for one specific reason. The leaked specs for the Canon EOS RP. We're going to keep this super duper short. I'm actually feeling really bad right now, just having some stuff. So if you're a praying kind of person, just keep me lifted up in your prayers. Much appreciated. But let's go ahead and jump to this for the specifications and all of that jazz. Hopefully the audio is coming through really good. Switch the microphones out, trying something differently, but let's see what we got thus far. This is all coming from CanonRumors.com. And so the Canon EOS RP is supposed to be one of the best, We'll see based off of the sales, but I think it'll be a home run for a lot of people for a lot of reasons, because it'll do all the simple things right. I think it will be the same sensor as, what we looked at from either, some kind of altered version of the M50, something like that, as far as we know it's the same, the Digic 8 processor, but as far as the sensor, it's probably from like the 6D Mark II M50 mesh type, between those two, but probably 60 Mark II is more likely. Not going to go over any photo specs simply because I do primarily video, so that's the stuff that I reference specifically. One of the great things that I saw early on is that it is dual pixel autofocus, no contrast autofocus whatsoever detected according to the specs for what we know right now. Should be later on tonight, middle of the night, early morning in the U.S. here, Central Standard Time Zone at least, that we'll get, the official announcement from Canon, so it'll probably be middle of the night for most of us. So phase detection autofocus, super dope. I can't wait for that to be I'm looking forward to it. And it's crazy because all we're asking for is the simple things. We just want the simple pleasures in life. So Servo AF is that face tracking, like you can see right now, as far as in my little video head here, that I'm able to get dual pixel autofocus and all that, and it can follow in face tracking. It will have the eye autofocus, as we can see there. What that'll be available in, we'll probably have to wait and see, whoever has had the camera and been testing it out, and be able to see that. So 4,779 autofocusing positions, so not bad, not bad at all. So much kind of like what we expect. Again, a little bit dumbed down from the EOS R, even though I don't know how you can make it any worse, but I think it'll be a good enough slam dunk for the basics. So they got zone autofocus, which will be cool, and then basic stuff, single 1-point autofocusing mode, all that's good. Focus peaking, so it will have focus peaking like the M50 does, like I'm sure the EOS R does, so that's cool. Don't get into any metering stuff, and I'll put the links already listed down below if you want to check those out. When we scroll down here, let me get to the good stuff. So viewfinder, just in case you're wanting 2.36 million dots. I really don't care about all of that, as long as I can see when it's sunny outside. I'm very simple, so that's cool. Scrolling past all that, and again, if you want more specific details, you can definitely look into all of that. The monitor is still going to be very angle, flip out screen, so we're good to go as far as that's concerned. Will be touch screen, just like normal. Scrolling past all this other stuff, you got your standard photo modes and all of that. I did not see a custom dial, far as like where you can adjust it for, goodness, like it's not a custom dial, so that you could make your own settings, essentially. So have your own settings there and all that kind of stuff. So I'm not seeing that, but it is saying that it will have some kind of custom mode on there. So I don't know if that's, I did see the B for the bulb on the pictures that we saw before, and I'll see if I can bring those up a little bit later, but otherwise that looks pretty dope. HDR is now included in here, regular standard profiles, and then you can add in your own, like I did on the M50. Scroll past all of this stuff. Continuous mode, 50 raw images. single, continuous high, continuous low, self-timer mode, all the stuff you can typically expect approximately 5 frames per second as far as that is concerned. So again, I just want to get to the video stuff. EOS movie, so here we go. So it will be able to take the RF and EF lenses, and this camera will have 4K. Unable to determine based off of what I've seen if it's going to have a crop or not, but I think that we can kind of expect that to be like a 1.6, 1.5, or 1.7 times crop or something like that. It will have 4K up to 24 frames per second, 25 if you're in some of these other countries. 4K time lapse will be in the good compression, the all eye, and so that'll be in 30 frames per second, as well as the same 30 and 25. So I'm guessing that 24 may be there. I don't know, for us US people, we'll just only be able to really use the 30 is what it's kind of looking like, because we don't use 25. As far as full HD, you will be getting 1080p 60, so no 120 frames per second, no 240 frames per second, none of that is going to be included. And then you also have some other stuff down here. So you got 1080p 60 frames per second, 30 frames per second, and then it's saying like 25, which is essentially 24 for us here in the US. Full HD HDR mode, something a little bit different, so 1080p 30 frames per second, and then they have these janky 720p 60 frames per second and 720p 30 frames per second. I don't know anybody's going to use that, but it will be 4K full HD and regular HD 420 8-bit, so it's not the 422 10-bit like most people kind of would want. So that's the thing. Still looking at that 30-minute recording limit. Why they didn't turn that off, who knows? But at least it won't break your files up into like those 4 GB file sizes at least. But I don't know. But this is just kind of unacceptable right here. This 30. I mean, at this point, I don't know what else we should expect from Canon other than bare minimum, absolute bare minimum. But that's kind of what we're looking at. Again, 4K video. I'm not sure if it's going to crop or not. And then you have the bit rates, which again, kind of just puts me in the mindset of the M50 or slightly better for some of this stuff. Nothing spectacular. Something I am really excited about, it will have the microphone jack, as well as you'll also have the HDMI that you can use. Don't know if that'll be like a full HDMI just yet, or whatever the case is. But you will be able to do, I think, according to what it's saying here, you'll be able to do 4K out of the HDMI port. So that's cool. And you will be able to get 422 8-bit uncompressed 4K video out of the HDMI. So that's a nice little touch there. And then sound output via the HDMI is also possible. So when outputting to external monitor, no images are recorded and blah, blah, blah. So, and you still get the dual pixel autofocus with all of that. So that's cool. We'll have the continuous eye autofocus. So that's nice. Some other stuff listed here I don't have any interest in whatsoever. But the one thing that I did see, of course, Wi-Fi and all of that stuff. One thing that I did see is that it will be able to have a USB-C port. It'll have a USB-C and it will do the USB-C charging. So that's super cool. So it will be the LPE17 battery that comes with it and a charger. That's the same one that was in the Canon M3, the Canon M6. That M6 was released back in 2017. So that's that one. So it will be able to do, you know, USB-C power adapter charging like I'm using on the M50 right now, and all of that stuff. You still be able to adapt the lens adapters and all that on there, so you get access to some of these incredible lenses that they're dropping, or, you know, use some adapted lenses from cameras like the 80D or 60 Mark II or whatever the case is. But otherwise, a decent little camera, I think. And then they did have another one here where they go into all the specs. And I was trying to figure out what the crop mode may be on here, but I didn't see it. But it will have a low pass filter on there. So if that matters to you, then that's something that'll be there. But otherwise, you pretty much getting at least the 4K is on. At least the 4K has dual pixel autofocus. You are getting, you know, able to get audio, video, HDMI out, 422 8-bit. So a little bump there. You know, we don't have to deal with the contrast autofocus, so that's nice. But all of this other stuff, it just kind of starts to look a little bizarre if you don't know kind of what you're looking at or whatever the case is. Otherwise, that's pretty much it. Just a quick rundown of the Canon EOS RP. I'm actually kind of excited about it. Again, some of the questions that I had, and I'll link up the video that we did before in the first several minutes. We were talking about just whether or not the M50 and this RP camera, would they be too close to where it would make a difference, or would it be enough in there that it actually does make a difference? And so the fact that it has a headphone jack, I really am excited about that. So, you know, when it comes to also being able to do Wi-Fi, you get the HDMI out, 422 8-bit. It'll also come with the headphone jack as well as a mic jack. I'm super thankful for that. I love that. We are looking at just one UHS 2 card. And, you know, it's just, it's good enough. And I think that's the thing. It is good enough. I think it will be. It is. I did see some weather sealing. Best thing I've found to do with these long sheets like this is just to do a search on the page. So it did say something. I did see it somewhere on one of these pages where it talked about the weather sealing and it having something. It's probably just going to be like water resistant as well as something else. But yeah, magnesium alloy, some parts, whatever. So not bad. And it will be the 440 grams or 485 with a memory card and a battery only. So that is the same as a full frame camera. You get access to all the lenses that Canon has. You get 4K with the dual pixel autofocus on. You'll have USB-C charging, so you can charge the camera at the same time that you're using it. I don't know what the crop is on this camera. I didn't see that on any of the spec sheets. Those are linked down in the description if you want to check it out for yourself. I believe it'll probably be a 1.6 or maybe a 1.7 crop in 4K. We can probably still expect some jelloing effects, so it's going to look a little wavy or whatever if you're doing video like that. Some ways to get around that, so not a huge issue. But I think, and it's coming in at $1,299. I think for that price, for those things included, this is a camera worth looking at. This is a camera worth picking up, and this is a camera that if you want to at some point upgrade beyond your M50, get started in full frame, I think this is why I waited to see what else can. Once I sold my Panasonic G85, because I wanted to see would they do a camera like this that's just good enough. It just meets the requirements that I need. 4K, clean HDMI out, USB-C charging, all the things that I want in a camera, the basic needs at the bare minimum. I think if you want that next level up from the M50, this is the best camera to do that with. Not the best camera, but this is a good camera to do that with. If not, then the M50 is still a bangarang camera. With that Viltrox speed booster, you're going to get similar performances, but you know, you have to adjust and do a few little hacks with it. You know, it's like get the M50 or get the EOS RP. It's just a matter of if you need a headphone jack, do you need the HDMI options with the 422 8-bit color science and all that good stuff, or you know, just all of that. I think for the headphone jack, for the USB-C charging, the LPE 17 battery is still a fairly small battery, but again, this is a very small camera that in weight is still going to be almost the exact weight of the M50. So the camera weight is not an issue. It'll be more lens heavy than anything else once you pump everything on there. I think for everything on there, it's kind of like I think this is going to be a hot seller. Completely like the M50, like we all trashed the M50 from Jump Street. But when you get it in your hands and you use it, you like, this will work. And then I think we'll get better ISO performance. One, it's a bigger and better sensor. But, you know, some people will complain like the guy Camera Conspiracies, which is phenomenal. He always talks about the 60 Mark II having like the line skipping stuff. But far as I can see, the compression or whatever video codecs. The only all-I, which is like their better video recording codec that you'll see like in the 80D, that's only going to be in the 4K time lapse from what I can see. I'm not worried about it. It looks like the same video codecs as the M50, and so I don't see a difference. And I think that's the thing. Like, I'm not, super lens, like not lens heavy, but I'm not super spec heavy when it comes to stuff like that. So I think it will be cool. So let's jump over to these comments. Thank you guys for being here. If you're on the previous streams, I don't know what's going on. I have to talk to the developers I'm working with on this program because we're having some issues. But if you think you'll get this camera, make sure you leave your comments down below, especially if you're watching this on the replay. Be curious to see what you guys think for this community, because that's close enough in price to save a few extra $100 to get a full frame camera with all of these features. So we got Rob Fuzz in the house. Good to see you. Thanks so much for being here. You're saying, so get this over the M50. I think if for price range, for average YouTuber, just doing videos like this, you don't need to spend the extra $100 or several $100s. You don't have to. If you are potentially going to do some video work, maybe it's for a church. I think this is going to be like a bomb seller for nonprofits, churches, super beginner indie filmmakers and stuff like that. It's going to be like that's because the lenses is really what makes the difference at the end of the day. The fact that you can still add those onto the M50, Viltrox, Speed Booster, and all of that, cool. Average YouTuber, you don't need all of that. The M50 is going to work just fine. If you want a full frame camera, then sure, because the first thing that you have to think of, and I did see that the adapter is not included. That is not something that was listed as supplied in there. You're going to get the battery charger, and the cords. That's it. So you're going to have to buy that USB-C power cord. You're going to have to buy, the wall charger and adapters and all of that stuff. And then you got the Canon tax. So that's the thing. But if you do want to take that next step up, I think this would be a bomb camera to pick up to supplement alongside my M50 for any video work I want to do. So I do intend to get one at some point, but I really have to make sure, do I need it? And I know I want it simply for the headphone jack and the USB-C charging. Keep everything else the same, and I like that. But, I think I'll get, similar performance between the M50 and this camera with slightly better results on this new one. So that's that one. And then you're saying Happy Valentine's Day early. Oh, thank you. I forget all about Valentine's Day, seriously. I don't know. And then I'm not quite all the way health-wise. I'm just feeling a little under the weather today. So I stayed at home from work. So hopefully I don't get in trouble if somebody see the stream. But whatever, mind your business. Alex Miner. I don't know if those are tears of joy or tears of pain. But good to see you, my friend. And just so you guys know, we'll have Alex Miner on the channel to get a chance to talk and ask questions to a real filmmaker out there making moves and shaking bacon all over. So I can't wait to have you on the show. Had to get you on for one of the Friday live days. So Michael Simmons saying, what's up? Good to see you, sir. You said RIP G85. Yeah, G85 been gone. I made that video when the A6400 came out, and I was like, I just need to do it and just go ahead and get it out my system, because boxing it up was the hardest thing. No lie. It was the hardest thing ever. So, that was the thing. You said, I'm having issues with Ecamm Live 2. And you said no notifications sending out. My thing was that it was just giving me errors. I'll see what's going on with that, because I set up 4 different live streams, and this is the 4th one, and then it was successful. So, and I tried one before, and it was fine, but I had the same issues on Monday. So I don't know what's going on, but oh well. Alex Rad, good to see you. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to the community. Saying the price is very good. Yes, it is. $1,200. That is a sweet spot. It's just right enough to where it's not a big deal. I spent $900 on the G85, and again, spec for spec, it's easy to say the G85 is way better, but at the same time, for the things that I really want now, that's perfectly priced. Extra couple $100, absolutely. So yeah. And then Rob Face saying, I wish you a happy Valentine's Day, because you said that that was the announced day of this new camera. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. Thankfully, Canon showed us some love on this one. Maybe they should always release their stuff out on February 14th. Maybe. Hopefully. and show us some love. It looks like they doing all right. They didn't do the 720p 120 frames per second like they did on the EOS R, which is the whole 720p anything. All right, I put my head down. The camera got confused, or the lens got confused. So that happened. But the what is it? 720p ordeal. It's just ridiculous to begin with. So it's no 120 frames per second in 1080p. It's still a 1080p 60 camera. At the end of the day, this is a 1080p 60 frames per second full frame Canon camera. And I think that is the slap in the face at this point. The 720p was already a kick in the knee. Now it's just a slap in the face. They're not even going to do that. It's just going to be, they got two different ones on there for 720p 60 frames per second. Nobody is shooting 720p. Nobody. The only 720p anything I see is when you just live stream to YouTube natively. That's as high as I've seen it go. You have to use some other method to get 1080p or something like that out. But the lack of, and it's, you know, it's going to be a crop in 4K. At least the dual pixel autofocus will work. But again, price point wise, it's launching at $12.99. Again, in 90 days, you'll start to see those cameras pop up on the used market for $1,000, $1,100, or $1,150, and that'll be ridiculous. You know, it'll be a great steal, especially if you want access to those lenses and all of that stuff. Mike, you saying mind your business. That's right. Mind your business. He said it's always good to have what you want. Awesome. He said, love your streams. Thank you for this. No problem. My pleasure. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to have you all in the community. You said the battery is the same as mine in the 77D, I think. So the if you use the LPE 17 battery, I know that was it's in the SL2, M3, and an M6. So I don't know what was in the 77D, but if it is, then yeah, it'll be the exact same one. So if you already have those batteries, then cool. I like the ones by Oa Proda, you know, but I don't know how this power is going to draw. I think it'll be the same power consumption as the M50, probably. The way that they probably dumbed down the camera spec-wise, I don't think it'll draw a whole lot of power. So you probably still can get about 2.5 hours of video, even though like they'll say the CIPA ratings or CIPA ratings. It's like whatever. Don't pay too much attention to that stuff. But if you got the batteries already, then you're good to go if you want that camera. You said 720p. What the way? Yeah, that's legit. It is legit. They are nonsensical with their ridiculousness. But yeah, if we go back over to the spec sheet, 720p. We're looking at in video, you only get 4K time lapse, the all-eye, the good compression there. So you get the 4K 25 or 24 frames per second there. So that's not the best codec. Again, that's like the same as think like an M50. And then when you come down here, okay, 1080p, 60 frames per second, 30 frames per second. It says 25. I don't know if we'll get 24 as well here in the US, but hopefully. So same thing here, 1080p 30. Again, it's saying 25 frames per second. I don't see 24 specifically. It makes a difference. But then we get this 720p nonsense. HD video, 720p, 60 frames per second, 30 frames per second, and then 25 or whatever. And then this HD HDR, 720p. 30 frames per second. Oh, gosh. So, like I said, regular, straight out of the camera, you're going to get a 4K 420 8-bit. So, if you're into color sciences and all of that, and you hear the other YouTubers talk about 422 10-bit and all that, whatever, it don't have all that. It will have a 30-minute recording limit like every other camera. So, unfortunately, they did not give us the hookup like Sony is with their users. And that A6400 is getting unlimited recording. Why y'all couldn't do that too? Firmware update. That's all it is. A simple firmware update. So again, I don't know. It's a decent enough camera. I would consider picking it up. just like I said, for the USB-C charging and all of that. But again, like I said, if you saw any of the videos through that M50 series I did, then you see I hacked the crap out of that camera to make it do whatever I wanted it to do. Unlimited streaming, I'm doing it right now. I could go for 5 hours if I wanted to, and I actually have in my testing. So, USB-C charging, don't have USB-C, but I do have a power adapter that I could connect to the camera. So I talked about that when I was talking about the DJI Osmo Pocket at the end of that video. Other than that, full frame lenses, I'm doing that. Crop factor, close to full frame, minus like a point whatever something. Doing that already too. 4K video, doing that too. It's just like, I don't know. And even with the 4K video, found a way to make sure I can be in focus, even if I want some distance between myself and the camera. So it's like, it's not, if you want to avoid some of that stuff and just want it to straight up work, go for it. Otherwise, I think M50 is still probably going to work. I don't think it's going to matter. So, let's see here. So Michael's saying, okay, let's go back to 420. You'd be surprised, and like the M6 and all that, they have some of those silly codecs in their 480p and whatnot. So it'd be very nice to see if dynamic range be better than in mine in your 60 Mark II. I think you can expect similar results. I think it's if anything, a slightly better sensor, or because of the processor, will get slightly better performance, but I don't think you're going to see much as far as that's concerned. I think it's just a matter of, if you want a 6D Mark II M50 had a baby type camera-ish, setup, basically 6D Mark II mirrorless with some M50-ish jazz added to it, little sprinkle on it. That's about all. I don't think it's going to get much better dynamic range. Again, I think the only thing that's going to save some of these budget-friendly cameras, like Canon's producing, is just the lenses and your craftsmanship. So I think that's what we're looking at. And then Michael's saying, yep, the firmware update is easy as pie. Indeed it is, because you have people like EOS HD, that guy Andrew Reed, making great stuff. The people that do that other Canon hacked firmware or whatever, it's super easy. Some things I didn't see that I hope to see, and we're going to wrap this up, is that hopefully you can see your audio bars on the front of the screen. That would be nice, since it has a headphone and audio jack. I think we can probably expect that. But at the price point, at the end of the day, good enough Canon. So with that, guys, if you are new to the channel and you haven't subscribed, make sure you consider subscribing, hitting that thumbs up button, the bell, and everything else YouTube wants you to do. But if you enjoy content like this, make sure you consider subscribing. If you watch this on the replay or on the live, thanks for being here. But as always, my friends, live with passion, and I will see you guys in the next video and or live stream.